Clippers ended their season on a sour note last year, blowing a 3-1 lead and it led to a lot of questions for this season. Paul George signed a new deal, 4-year, $190 million deal, and fans are wondering if Kawhi will come back and sign an extension after this season. Are the Clippers headed for a bounce-back season this year? And what does this team bring to the table that last year didn't? And can they go to the Western Conference Finals and finally end their drought? This is where we will find out on Ballin' Up. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode. Host Sean Robinson, got Grant Rhodes. And today, just gonna look at the Clippers and see, what they kind of improved on, what they didn't improve on, what their stuff is. I'm pretty passionate about this one because it's my team, and Grant likes ripping on them a little bit. So I want to hear some positive and negatives from it. So should be a good one. So let's start off with this, Grant. Paul George, had a bad season last year. Probably obviously his worst one of his career, and he signed a new deal, 4 years, $190 million deal. Stay with the Clippers. Do you think he was worth it after last year, or not? Maybe not after last year, but during his career, do you think he was worth it?
Yeah, I think if we're judging it just based off of last year, uh, obviously it was not his best performance, and he kind of ended off on a very rough note. But
Mm,
like I said, I don't think you can also judge. I mean, a whole man's career based off one. I mean, it was also just the bubble as well too.
right.
I don't think he did. I mean, he wasn't playing up to his MVP performance during the regular season like he was the previous year in OKC.
Mm,
I mean, the man was still getting buckets. He was still good. 190 million. I feel like a lot of people today in the NBA, they make more than what they probably should. I feel like everyone gets overpaid. So I feel like for the Clippers getting them for that much, I mean, for them, I don't see it as that bad because I mean, I feel like I do feel like Paul George will bounce back, and we've seen glimpses of it this year already throughout the first 5 games or so.
mm.
But I don't think it was that bad of a deal. I mean, I would have definitely tried to go less. I'm not sure exactly what went down. I'm not sure. But the only reason I would be skeptical of it is if your buddy Kawhi, if he ain't gonna be there with Paul George,
Yeah.
uh, then I really don't like that signing because I feel like you just kind of I don't know tossed out some money for someone who may not be that dude anymore that could lead it by himself. Uh, So and I don't know. I think it all really depends on what Kawhi does, and I'm very interested to get your take on whether or not you think that your boy Kawhi will be around next season.
Um, I'm you know, I hope he's gonna be back next season. Uh, you know, I think he will be, just because California, it's his hometown. He's playing for the Clippers. He's already really got the championships and stuff like that. He's younger. I don't think he's one of those guys that want to team up and form like a super team, like LeBron or Kevin Durant or any of that. I think he kind of wants to do his own thing. But, at the same time, it's kind of like, what what's going to happen because last year there's a lot of questions. I don't know if, you know, Kawhi's too. He's so soft spoken. You don't really know like what he's thinking or what he's gonna do. I mean, obviously, when he was asked this earlier this year before the season started, he said he was focused on the season. Which I respect that. But I hope he's back. I hope he's back. Um, but hopefully, maybe if they do end up winning it this year, maybe he doesn't come back. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see. It's kind of tough, you
I mean,
know.
I think that it's very interesting, just because he he wasn't going to come to the Clippers, unless he had like that other superstar with him. So he
Mm,
wanted Paul, he went there, and he got Paul George. So if he and Paul George get that extension, I kind of figured maybe Kawhi would do the same, but obviously it's still pretty early. I don't know, uh, when he'll do that, if he ever will. But like I don't know,
right.
I kind of expected it to be around the same time as Paul George if they were to do it like that, because I don't know. I mean, you pair them both together when you brought him in here, so I feel like that's
Right.
what they're sticking with. But
Yeah, and
I don't
Paul,
know. I don't know. I just think it's interesting.
yeah, Kawhi too. He wanted Paul George, so I would think that him signing the extension is kind of like, hey, I want to stay here for the long run. Let's keep it going. I obviously heard Paul George, say rumors and stuff like that, like, let's run it back, even though he didn't have the best best playoff performance. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from Paul George this year, especially last night against the Suns. Um, when Kawhi wasn't hitting anything at all, and Paul
Yeah,
George was, really stepped up. And so I'm excited to see not only what this year's team can do, but kind of the future. Dealing with Kawhi because you got Pat Bev. He's not the best point guard. Then you got Lou. He's kind of on the decline of his career. He's still a bucket. Don't get me wrong, but he's on like the decline of his career. So it'll be interesting to see what this team what they do, especially around Kawhi. Because if he leaves, I think then, okay, well, it's Paul George's team, obviously, and they're going to have to start building around Paul George. And I think you'll see more of that, like Indiana Pacers team, stuff like that. Paul George, fit to his play style. Um, but I don't know.
so I got a question for. Do you think that I got two questions actually? So one, do you think that Kawhi and Paul George's play style, do you think that they mesh together well? Like, do you think that they work together when they're on the court, or do
Mhm.
you think that if Paul George were to go back to, like as you said, like that kind of pacer style where it's he kind of runs that offense and you got like the key players around him, and it's not so much of Kawhi's team, and then Paul George definitely is there.
Um, I say yes, especially defensively. Obviously, defensively they mesh together well. You can't argue that they're two of the best two-way, players defensively in the league. Um, but from what I've seen last year, there were some games where there were games, meshed together, and there were others where it kind of did not mesh together, especially in the playoffs. Um, but I mean, you can't really judge playoffs because Paul George didn't really show up. So, but for this season, what a little games I've saw, both these guys, they look like they can, their games can mesh. I think it's just Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. See, the thing I like about Kawhi, he's not like he has to have the ball, he has to score and stuff like that. I think that's more of Paul George's thing. He's got to score, he's got to shoot. He's gonna keep shooting, and whether it's gonna be a make or a miss. That's why he might not have the best numbers. That's why he might be like 8 for 21 or something like that. You know, and Kawhi is just, you know, for it's so difficult to say what Kawhi does because Kawhi is just a man of his own. He's got the mid range, um, and the three, some of the three ball. But Paul George, he's got that three ball. He's got the handles a little bit more. Um, so do I think their games mesh together? Yes, a little bit. Um, but I think also it was kind of difficult last year with Doc Rivers' play style. It's kind of, it's kind of different. That's why I'm kind of keeping up on the games and stuff like that this year to see how Ty Lue will insert his play style for both of them. because I've seen like some of the triangle offense. Michael Jordan used that, Kobe Bryant used that. Uh, for Kawhi, and Paul George is more of a ISO player, go around, pick and roll screens and stuff like that. So, uh, yeah, I would say their games meshed together pretty well.
Yeah, I'll throw in my take here a little bit. I mean, I think defensively, I don't think you can argue too much. I
Mhm.
mean, Kawhi is one of, if not, one of the best defenders we've seen, in this game in a while. Uh, then Paul George, we've seen him. He produces on the defensive end. He's solid. But I don't know. I feel like with where Kawhi is at, like he's still like in his prime right now,
Mhm.
and I think he's still like at each season. I feel like he gets better at like offensively, like his mid range, his shooting. Like I feel like he's still kind of developing that, and that's why I liked him in Toronto. Like I thought he fit perfectly in that system. Like
Yeah.
I mean, he was like that guy that could just, Kyle Lowry. He ran the offense, he ran it up, which was perfect. He had a guard.
Mhm.
Kyle Lowry could do this, and they got him the ball down there. Put him in the post, let him go ISO. Let him play make even a little bit, and that's why I think he fit that role like just even better right there. Like I thought that was perfect. I
Yeah.
thought that was a perfect fit for him. And not to say that Paul George like doesn't help him any with there, but like I mean, he's just kind of like it's a lot of money to be paying someone like that, and I feel like he fit better in the Toronto system where I mean it was like they didn't. I mean Kyle Lowry was like that star, sure, or even Pascal Siakam. I mean, I'd still take Paul George, obviously over either one of them, but
Right.
like I still like that Raptors team better overall, just the way they fit. So I don't know. What's your take on that?
I mean, obviously, you gotta say that the Raptors team was better because I mean they won a championship. Um, and they were able to go all the way and stuff like that. But at the same time, they played a Warriors team that was hurt. But I mean, don't disrespect Curry. No disrespect to Curry. Obviously, we saw that last night.
He did. Oh,
Man,
goodness.
crazy and dropped 62.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
That's for another time.
Yeah, another
Um,
podcast, another day. But
yeah, but you know, I just the way Kawhi plays, I think you go look at back at the Spurs days where he had, a good point guard in Tony Parker. He had Tim Duncan. And then, last season, not last season, when he was with the Raptors, won the chip, he had Kyle Lowry. He had Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, stuff like that. So, I would like to hear why Kawhi Leonard chose Paul George to be his guy because, I mean, obviously, as you know, that free agency was crazy. You had Kevin Durant, you had Kyrie, um, you had, I mean, you could have tried to get Anthony Davis. You had a lot of guys. And if he wanted a point guard, I'm sure he would have, either re-signed with Toronto or said like, "Hey, Kyrie, you trying to come?" I remember even seeing reports that he wanted to play with Kevin Durant. So I think it's just the way he wants to change his game. Like you said, he's getting better offensively every year. So, and two, you got to take into account that the NBA, I mean, is changing, you know, basically every day with these three balls. I mean, they're being launched. Teams are shooting more threes. Um, and not as many 2 pointers and mid ranges as we used to see back in the day. So I think, him pairing Paul George was like, hey, you be more of the shooter guy outside. I'll focus on my mid range and stuff like that. Um, yeah, yeah. I'd say though overall, I think the better system obviously was Toronto than the Clippers. Just from last year's performance, you know, I didn't really see Kawhi and Doc Rivers. Maybe it was Doc Rivers' system. I think it was Doc Rivers' system. He didn't really like it. Um, so, maybe we'll see Ty Lue do something different. We already know he had, LeBron and Kyrie. So maybe he'll implement, some of that for Kawhi, what he did with LeBron. Obviously, they're two of the top players of their, respective positions. Not the same. Um, LeBron's just much bigger and stronger than
Yeah,
Kawhi, but
yeah, no kidding. Oh yeah.
but
Uh,
I'd say, you know, shooting, I think Kawhi just wants to be able to shoot more. I think that's what it is. I think that's why um this system, if they get it right, this triangle system, I think that they're implementing, and I'm seeing a little bit more because I'm seeing a lot more Kawhi ISOs, a lot of Kawhi post ups, stuff like that. Um, and then him either kicking it out to a 3-point shooter, or shooting the mid range, which I mean most of the time he usually makes because that mid range, is I'd say he's got one of the best mid ranges in the game right now. You might disagree, but you know, for now, I'm gonna say that Raptors system was better, but I would like to see what he does, what Ty Lue has for him this year, and hopefully, we can see a little bit of change.
yeah, so I got one more quick question too before we get to the other main one. But just real quick, I think that's pretty obvious. Would you say that Doc Rivers or Nick Nurse is a better head coach?
Like overall, career wise,
Sure, or I guess in the sense that would work for Kawhi, since he's had both of them as a coach.
I think for Kawhi purposes, Nick Nurse, obviously, they won a championship. He was able to really play his game in the system. I don't think in Doc Rivers he was allowed to play his style, uh, that mid-range style. Last year was a lot of, Kawhi just take the ball up the court, oh, pass the ball, we'll give it to Kawhi, and everybody just move out. No picks or screens or stuff like that set for him. Um, and you saw Nick Nurse, there was a lot more ball movement for him, post ups, like you said.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think that's what Kawhi needs, just those post up stuff like that. He just doesn't need. He can play the ISO ball a little bit, but I don't think it's best for his game, uh, to play it. So I'm gonna go with best for Kawhi. I'm gonna say Nick Nurse, just because I don't think I saw the best Kawhi. He had career numbers, in points, assists, and rebounds, but I think it was more of a just because Kawhi was the man on the team last year for Doc Rivers.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I would, I mean, because we even saw, I mean, I think it helps so much having Kyle Lowry able to like bring the ball up
Mhm.
for Kawhi. I think that helped him tremendously. Like
Right.
you said, being able to just get it down to the post moves. Like I think that's what he improved like tremendously right there alone.
Hmm.
Or just in his post game like that. And I thought that was like a whole other step to his game, which was pretty interesting to see. But I like that take there from you. I think I would agree with you, in saying that uh, I think I would prefer if I'm Kawhi, I'm preferring Nick Nurse's system. I just feel like it works so much better, and maybe it was a team that was set up around him as well too. You have to take that into account. But
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And then also, lastly, I just want to get to if so, maybe not as bad as last year, but let's just say that the Clippers get to the playoffs, and they first, second round, whatever it is, Western Conference Finals, whatever, and they kind of play in a similar way what they kind of did last year. Paul George isn't performing too well. And Kawhi is doing most of the most of the heavy lifting.
Mm.
Would you think that that would impact Kawhi's decision in wanting to come back next year, maybe? Or do you think that that would make him want to potentially like leave if he's not seeing Paul George put up these type of numbers, and saying, hey, this is the person I signed here with, they're giving you all this money. What's your stance on all that?
I think there's gonna be two scenarios that could happen here. One, he could obviously say, okay, obviously Paul George isn't the fit. We leave. He leaves. Or he says, okay, you know this is if they lose, right, if they don't make it all the way and win it, correct?
Hmm. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, yes, yeah.
So, I mean, actually, all right, I'm having a third option. So first, he's gonna leave. Kawhi goes off to another team. Says, "No, I'm done." Paul George, here's the keys to Clippers. Second option, I say he can, say, "All right, Paul George, maybe he isn't the guy, but I still want to stay here at the Clippers because, like I said, this is home. It's South California, it's home. So maybe, we see like how the Clippers did with Blake Griffin a couple of years back, traded him to the Pistons, gave him that huge deal, and then trade him. So maybe we could see that with Paul George. Kawhi says, no, I don't want Paul George. We tried, it doesn't work. Let's try somebody else. The third option could be, I think they completely revamp the team
Mm.
with Kawhi and Paul George. I think they obviously their first priority is they get a ball handling point guard that can take care of those ball handling duties from Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and they can focus on their game. Now, I'm not saying it has to be an all-star, like a Kyrie or a Kyle Lowry or something like that, but it can be like a point guard like a Rondo or you know, CP3, somebody, that can take care of the ball handling duties and, not want to score as much. Um so yeah, I think those are the three options. I think the most hypothetical one obviously is either I don't think the Clippers are going to trade Paul George because he's from California too, and he said he wants to stay at home. He wants to win a championship. But we all know how superstars,
Mm.
say that they want to win a championship, they're here to stay and stuff like that. The next moment, they're like, this isn't working. I want to get traded or something like that. The most hypothetical one I see happening is they completely blow up the team. They hired the coaching staff, so we're not going to see the coaching staff change. Once again, I think it's going to be well, we're going to look at Patrick Beverly, trading him, getting another point guard, Lou Williams, getting rid of him, bringing in somebody else. I think it's those two guys that are going to be like, we're going to get rid of you guys and bring him in. I mean, even this year, we can see, I hope not because he's one of my favorite players, but Lou Williams, I think, he's not having the best career year, but I think he could get traded. Um, just, for a better point guard because I don't think they're going to trade Patrick Beverly because he brings defense and he is like the heart and soul. He's like the Marcus Smart for the
Draymond
Celtics.
Green, he's
Yeah. Yeah, the Draymond Green for the Warriors. He's
mhm.
one of those guys. He's like the engine for the team. And, he brings the energy to the team. He had Montrezl Harrell and Pat Bev, but obviously Montrezl Harrell went down the street. Uh
Right down the street.
yeah, that's another thing, another episode. Uh but I think the best thing for them to do, Kawhi has to weigh his options. Like I said earlier, I don't think he's gonna go and leave the team, just because that is home. Maybe he goes to the Lakers. Maybe he goes somewhere else in California. I don't know, but I kind of feel like that he's had multiple chances to have a say in what the team does and I mean, obviously, last year we saw all of that come out when they didn't do anything. We saw the Kawhi treatment and stuff like that. I'm sure you saw all those articles. Um, so I think he's changing a little bit, and I think he wants to stay with the Clippers. I think it's just a matter of who it's going to be with, who's his number two. Maybe it's not Paul George. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it is Paul George. And then the guys around him.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree with you for the most part. I don't see the Clippers making too many, drastic changes this offseason.
Mhm.
I say I think the only possible way that Kawhi would, consider leaving is if, obviously I think if the Clippers don't make the playoffs this year, uh, I think he might have something to think about, but I don't really see that happening.
Yeah.
But I think if they were to get like bounced first round or kind of have like that collapse again. Like I could see him, definitely thinking like, hey, this is, 2 years in a row. Like we had a really good team the first year, and like, good team the second year. Obviously I got my guy Paul George, but it's still nothing. So
Right.
I think obviously everything in this world depends on something or something, but I think it depends on how they finish out the year. Because it doesn't really matter how you start. You can blah blah blah. Just as long as you make the playoffs, and that's when the real season starts. For most players even.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that'll be interesting to kind of follow there and just kind of see how they perform. Especially following last year. So, but last question here to wrap it up. So obviously I don't know your stance on this either. Last year's Clippers team compared to this year's Clippers team. Would you say that you guys got like better, worse, and do you think that his championship is still run through the Clippers?
Hmm. The first question is a good one. I haven't really thought about that. Um.
Because I mean there are some key players that the Clippers lost, but
Mhm.
with another year of being with the team, a whole nother off season, there's that kind of you don't see it happening, but that team chemistry, I don't know. So kind of talk about all that.
Yeah. So there's improvements in some areas, and obviously there is no improvements. Like I said, the point guard position. Uh, there's really only, I guess, one true point guard on the team, and that's Patrick Beverly. There's not really another point guard on the team. I mean Reggie Jackson. I forgot about him. So, but I mean, he's dealt with injuries, stuff like that, ever since Detroit. We all know that. Um, the upgrades I say is Montrezl Harrell from Serge Ibaka. Yes, you're not going to get the same offensive firepower and hypeness as you did from Montrezl Harrell with Serge, but Serge now brings that defensive presence a little bit more taller. Montrezl Harrell, and I hope you see this year. Oh my, I hope you see it. He is a defensive liability, um, especially against taller guys like Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, Giannis. So that's where I think that's kind of where everything fell apart, kind of, because Jokic, he was just you don't know what Jokic is gonna do. He's either gonna shoot it, he's gonna pass it. We've seen the crazy passes and stuff like that. So with those bigger guards, that can do anything. I said bigger guards, like bigger centers, big men that play like guards. You kind of need that more of a bigger guy, a taller guy. You can't really put a smaller defender on him. So I think that is an upgrade. Um, I also like the signing. You might not agree with me on this one, but Nicholas Batum. I've seen, in the 7 games I've watched for 7 games, I've seen Nicholas Batum help with the ball creating, ball handling duties and the playmaking duties because of that void of a real like playmaking point guard, stuff like that, which I like. I kind of like it. He's not a guy that's like comes in and is like, yo, I gotta score. He's an older vet. He knows what he's got to do for the team. He's just coming in there and really like, I'm gonna make the smart play. That's what he kind of is. He's kind of like the smart play. Um, so he's starting right now, which I kind of like, but obviously because of Marcus Morris is hurt, so I kind of want to see what Ty Lue is gonna do with that once Marcus Morris decides, stop stop being an injury with his knee soreness. Knee so I how sore can your knee be, bro? And you're in Cancun.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then so those are really the only big 2 off-season guys they got. So I do see improvement from this year's team to last year's team. It's kind of the same, not really much change except for Montrezl Harrell leaving and some other guys like Jermichael Green, stuff like that. But not big name guys really. They brought back Marcus Morris, they brought back Reggie Jackson, so the key guys. I do like Luke Kennard too. I think he doesn't have to play that big role that he did in Detroit. He's kind of just come off the bench and gonna shoot pretty much.
Got
I
that
think
big payroll though. They
yeah,
paid
and
big bucks.
got a big payroll as well. So I think he's gonna do a little bit of something. Another shooter. He's better and he can ball handle as well. I kind of like how they brought in. Obviously, they didn't get a point guard, so they brought in more guys that can handle the ball and play make. They got Lou, they got Pat, they got Nicholas Batum, like I said, and Luke Kennard. As we saw, I don't know, if you remember, but the Pistons, Luke Kennard was basically like the only guy. I mean, last year he played like the point guard position and created for the team and shot as well. And that's what I've seen from Luke Kennard. He'll shoot a couple if he's open. If he feels like he can make it, and then he'll also create for Paul George, Kawhi, and stuff like that. So I do like that. Um, so overall, I think that they improved maybe just a little bit. We'll see. It's still early in the season, and I kind of want to see what's going to happen once Marcus Morris comes back. Um, because obviously he's a scorer guy, scoring defense. Um, but I think that it's not too bad. Of a team, maybe not. Their bench obviously isn't as good as last year. Uh, and I'm kind of teetering on Will Lou Williams. Is this it for him? Like, is he not going to be as good anymore? No more six man. Um, so it'll be interesting to see, uh, what this team can do compared to last year.
So do you think they got it in them to win the championship potentially, or do you think that they still need that one more piece potentially?
See, I don't know who the one more piece would be though. I think that they could make a run. I'm gonna tell you one thing though, they need to stop blowing 30-point leads every game. Like this is ridiculous. I mean, they come out shooting hot. They're a good defensive team. Like, you got Patrick Beverly, you got Serge, you got Kawhi, you got Paul George. Good defensive team. They're just I don't know, they just get into it. I think it's a pride thing too. They just get too overhyped and they're like, "Oh yeah." And I think half of it's Patrick Beverly too. I think that's his problem. He just, starts getting hype and rambled up, gets the team hype, like, "Yeah, yeah, let's go." And he starts making mistakes. And then Reggie Jackson, he's just I don't know,
He starts
sometimes he
talking.
does not make the smart yeah, he doesn't make the smartest plays. Um and so I I don't know. I don't know. I've been kind of quiet on the Clippers hype train this year. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been kind of quiet. I haven't really said much as I was last year, every win and stuff like that, just because, well, one, last year they didn't lose by 51 points. And
Yeah.
that too, like it's still, I don't really know. Um, and then on other night they lost against Utah. They came back in the fourth quarter, but then they ended up losing because first half was not the best. Um, but I think this team could be better than last year's team. They can get a little bit further if they just stick to their game plan, not get too prideful. They shouldn't want to only beat the big name teams, and I thought that was a big thing last year. I was like, they only care about beating the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Rockets, those bigger teams, those better teams.
I don't think they cared about beating the Nuggets.
Yeah, well, in the playoffs they did not, but in the regular, yeah, I don't even know. But I think they need to just take every game one game at a time and not be like, oh, hey, we're only focused on the Lakers and stuff like that. They will make the playoffs. I will say that they're going to make the playoffs this year, but they need to not just focus on, you know, the end goal and trying to see the Lakers. They need to focus on each game, every round, and just try and do their own thing, focus on themselves and not try to focus on, what is LeBron doing? What is Anthony Davis doing? What is James Harden doing? Stuff like that. Because even this year, I was thinking the same thing. They don't care about beating, the smaller teams. Like the Mavs. How do you lose against 51 points against the Mavs, dude? Come on, man.
Yeah, it's
But you
tough.
just beat the Nuggets. You blew out the Nuggets and you beat the Lakers like 2 days before. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. And then the Jazz, you lose to the Jazz by 6. You come back, but you still lose. So I was kind of glad that we got the win last night because the Suns, are a good young team and they're hot. Um, but we'll see. I believe they play Golden State twice this week, which
Ooh,
is exciting. Yeah, yeah. So it'll be exciting to see. Uh, yeah, they don't have their same team, but from the highlights I saw last night with Curry, Draymond is back, and I think is going to take off some of the heavy lifting off Steph's shoulders. So I
I don't
think
know.
the
I don't know if you
Warriors.
saw, but Steph and Draymond combined for 63 points last
Yeah,
night.
I did. I
They were going crazy, man.
did. I did see that. I did see that. So, um, that would be a good game, to see. I don't really know who else they play, but I think this team could do it. I'm not gonna say we're gonna win it this year. I'm gonna be prideful. I'm gonna slow my roll real quick because they did get bounced ugly, blew a 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets. Uh, so, like I said, I think I said this a while ago. I was actually, I go back and watch some of the older ones. Uh, I'm gonna keep it to the Western Conference Finals. Small goal, small goal. I'm gonna keep it to
Yes,
the Western
sir.
Conference
Okay,
Finals.
okay.
Yeah, yep. Let's get there because obviously the Clippers have never been there in franchise history,
That's
even though
right.
they had some great teams last year, and then you go back to the Lob City days. So which is very disappointing. I've only been a fan since Lob City days, but I mean, still, since they've been good, pretty much, they should have gone to the Western Conference Finals by now. Um, it'll be interesting to see what this new coaching staff can do as well, because I mean, Doc Rivers has been there for a while. I mean, ever since I've been a fan, basically the Clippers. So, it would be interesting to see what this team can do. Uh, hopefully Kawhi can, at the end of the day, say, yes, this is my city, LeBron James. But for now, I'm gonna say Western Conference Finals.
Okay, okay. No, that's all I got for you right there with the LA Clippers. That's an
Yes, sir.
interesting take. I respect that. Keeping it
Yeah,
small, but keep it realistic.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, hopefully we do finally get that Lakers Clippers Western Conference Finals that we were waiting for so long. Maybe I was thinking maybe it was just plans not to have it because 2020 was just such a bad year.
You mean
Maybe it's
fans?
planned to have in 2021. So
Yeah, I think they're waiting for fans to show up so then we can really witness just this ass
yes,
whooping that's about to happen.
yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, obviously, it is sad and disappointing that the Clippers lost 3-1, but I think I'm glad to see, hopefully in 2021 this year, we can see a Clippers Lakers with fans. You know, maybe we can go get some tickets, get some, see a game. That would be hype.
Yeah, I would. Oh,
That would be insane. But so hopefully better season. Hopefully they can see the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, do good in the playoffs, stay healthy. Obviously, we already got a big injury with Kawhi Leonard getting hit in the mouth, which I mean was still. I'm glad he's playing. Glad he only missed like one game. He's still looking weird out there, with that face mask. It looks like an ice cube on his
it does. It
face.
looks a little different. That was because it's one for your jaw, not your nose. It's different. It's weird.
Yeah, it really is different. I was seeing a lot of tweets, memes, the Rip Hamilton, like what he ordered and then what he actually got.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully Clippers are off to a good start. They are 5-2. I think there's like 4 teams. You got them, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Pelicans, I believe. They're all 5-2. So tight Western Conference. We'll see how it is. I will say that my team is 1-0 against the Lakers during the regular season. Not to
It's
brag,
true. That is
but
true.
but yes, sir. So that's gonna conclude our show for today. We hope you guys have a good one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and catch you guys next time.